This is a set of Cabriole style legs, and I don't know if I'm saying that right. This is from the Queen Anne or Chippendale style, or Louis the 15th. I've seen a couple of different descriptions of them. They've got that very distinctive curve, and I've seen ones where they got the ball and claw at the foot. But here's the thing. I just don't like them. They're not my style. I'm more of a mission and shaker type guy. I like those clean, angular lines. These are not mine. I didn't make them. These were given to me like 10 years ago by my wife's cousin when he was getting out of woodworking. I mean, I can admire the work that went into them. I mean, it took a lot of skill to make them, but they're not me. And so they've just been sitting around in a cupboard in my shop for like the last 10 years, and every now and then I'll be cleaning or looking for something and I'll come across them and I'm like, yeah, those are nice. I should do something with them. And I never do, because they're just not me. But today I've got the idea. I'm going to make a ridiculously pretentious cat bed. Yes, with cabriole legs. You can call it a footstool if you want. We have this cat, he likes to look out the window, and right now he's got sort of a bed on top of some cardboard boxes, and my wife is like, can we come up with something better than that? And I'm like, yes, I think we can. I'm going to keep this simple. I've prepared some cherry stock. It's going to be a box. I'm going to make it with screws and plugs and dados, and we're just going to have some fun in the shop. I'm trying to keep this cheap, so I'm going to use some scrap plywood that I have, but it's not quite big enough. I want something roughly 20 by 15, and this plywood is only about 12 inches wide. And so I have my board stretcher, otherwise known as my doweling jig, and I'm going to join another piece of plywood on here so that I can have a large enough bottom inside. I want this done right away because when I put it all together, this will help with squaring it up when you fasten all the pieces together. So I want to make sure this is ready to go. So the dowels are just going to provide alignment. They're not going to give, well, I suppose they're going to provide strength, but that's not what we're doing it here for. We want to make sure these pieces stay together. And well, I probably don't need this many dowel holes, but it was not that hard, and yeah, I just sort of kept going, and now I've lost my stir stick. Where's my stir stick? There it is. I think I've mentioned before how these dowels are, the ones that I buy, they're made of compressed hardwood, so the water and the glue will make them swell up a bit, which really locks it into the joint. I've cut open joints before, sometimes by accident when the dowel's in the wrong spot. And these little grooves that we see here, those grooves in the dowels are just, they're not even there. It's all swollen up and tight with the wood. So the legs have a 4.5 inch piece at the top, so I'm going to rip the cherry down to 4.5 inches so that it can nicely wrap around it. So I want to rip a 3/4 inch wide dado along the bottom of the cherry to receive the bottom of the cat bed. And rather than trying to, figure out how to make the blade absolutely perfect width, what I do is I clamp a sacrificial fence here. It's got a bit that's carved away for the blade. Then you just embed it in the wood, and then you can set the width to whatever you really need. So now it's starting to come together. This is a dry fit. The legs, this is the top, so the legs will be like from underneath coming through here. So I need to knock out the corners of the bottom. So I'm going to draw a spot to be cut away. So I'm going to use some 23 gauge pins to hold everything firmly, and then I will be popping in some screws later. I have it upside down right now. Makes it a bit easier to put it all together, and hope. So the plywood was cut on the table saw, so that should be square, and that will help square up the box. So coming along, got the basic box made. We got these cutouts in the corners where the legs fit into, but it's kind of ugly like that. I don't want to leave it like that, so I've made up these little L-shaped pieces of maple. Which are going to fit in the corner, and then I'm going to put another piece over top which will hide all that and make it look extra fancy. So I want simple, but I don't want ugly, so I don't want those screws to be visible. So I'm going to cut some plugs with my plug cutters and cut it out of a piece of cherry. We'll put it on the drill press and we'll cut a bunch of plugs, and it should match and hopefully disappear into the wood. When that's dry, I will sand that. When that's dry, I will cut those flush and sand it. And well, you have a choice here. You could try to hide it, or you could try to feature it. Like you could have done maple or some other contrasting wood if you want to make it a feature. What I did is I had one tiny little bit of curly wood, curly from a bit of crotch there, and it was not enough to make any sort of difference on the piece itself. It was only like about 6 inches long, 2 inches wide, but that's where I cut all these plugs from. And I'm kind of curious as to what that's going to look like. Kind of amazing that someday this is going to look like this. They're both cherry. This is 10 years old, been machined but never had any finish applied, and it's been sitting in a dark cabinet in the basement for basically all of that time. And this is brand new cherry. This is going to look like that. Okay guys, that's about it for this one. I had another fun day in the shop building this project, and you know, I'm quite sure that most of you do not have a set of Cabriole Legs lying around, but I did. So as always, I'd like to thank you for stopping by and spending some time in my shop. I hope you found at least some part of it interesting, and we'll see you next time. Yeah. He's not used to it yet, so I guess for now it's going to be a footstool.